tonight, I'd just like to, we talked about John's, so far we've talked about John's couple of big terms that he has. Like, and he uses these terms to, mend the church together in his ministry. And one of those terms was fellowship. And we saw that John had fellowship with the Father and the Son, and he was, proclaiming what he knew to the saints, and so that they would have fellowship. And you could just see how, his solution for the church was just to bring everyone into fellowship. And the fellowship of the Father and the Son. And then that was like a wonderful solution for the church at that time. Just realize, wow, things are degraded. There's Antichrist in the church. People are teaching that Jesus Christ did not come in the flesh. They're teaching all kinds of different things. And then John, opens with, you need to be brought into fellowship. And so we saw that word. And fellowship is this: when you drop your own interests and then you pursue a common interest and a mutual relation with the other person. And when it's the Father and the Son, the fellowship with the Father and the Son, you just realize, wow, that's I'm going to drop my interest, pick up the Father's interest, pick up the Son's interest. I'm going to drop my interest, pick up the apostles' interest. And then you think, well, the whole church is kind of knit together, mended together in this picture of fellowship. And then we also looked at the picture of anointing. And that's another big picture of what keeps us together. It's like we have been attached to Christ, and then we have an anointing. And we saw with that anointing is it's not just an individual experience, but you could think about Christ as the anointed one, and we're all as brothers and sisters in Christ attached to him, and the oil is just going over all of us. And then there's an experience of knowing him on the inside. And John even said, there's no need. You have no need that anyone teaches you. But as his anointing teaches you all things and is true, you abide in him. Abide in him. And so, at the end of the ministry of the apostles, which is where John is, we have these two big things: fellowship, anointing. And then tonight, I'd like to talk about this very interesting phrase, loving in truth. And it's from a book that almost no one reads, 2 John. And then it appears again in another book that almost no one reads, 3 John. But if you want to feel really good about yourself and you say, I want to read 2 books of the Bible, 2 entire books of the Bible, just read 2 John and 3 John, and you'll get it done in about 3 minutes. But if you read those books, you'll find this phrase. And that's what we want to talk about tonight. The phrase, love in truth. And so I'll read this to you. To the elder, to the chosen lady, and her children. And look at this. Whom I love in truth. I love in truth. And not only I, but also all who know the truth. And what's this for? For the sake of the truth, which abides in us and will be with us forever. I would say this: what a rich sentence. And then again, 3 John, to the elder, to the beloved Gaius, whom I love in truth. And, the third kind of statement that I would like to talk about John making as a solution for the church is this: love in truth. Love in truth. And I think about that, and I'll just talk about that a little bit at the beginning. I don't know if we really know what love is. It would be awesome if I walked in to my house and then my wife just saw me and then as soon as she saw me, she just falls down because so much love. Wouldn't that be awesome? Daniel, wouldn't it be awesome if Min would just walk in? Or no, you walk in, you see Min, and you're like, oh, I just love her so much. And then you just fall down. Boom. And then Min would be like, he really loves me. We sometimes think about love as like some kind of like, boom, 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 boom. And then, let me tell you, when I started dating Rose, I did have that, boom, 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 wow. And then it's like, you like cherry ice cream? I like cherry ice cream too. Oh my goodness. Oh, it's like, whoa, this is so love. And you just have this sense of this feeling. Well, that might be your thought of love, but it's not love in truth. Although there could be a lot of love in truth. There could be a lot of feeling with love in truth. Or there's another way, like, no matter what, I love you. I just love every part of you. You love robbing banks. I love robbing banks too. I just love you. And there could be a thought about love. It's just like, we say love is blind, and then you can tell this, like, when people are about to be married and you might say, or dating to be married. And then it's like, that person might have some problems and you just don't see any of the problems. It's like, oh, he's just perfect. He's just perfect. And you're like, boy, you don't see the issues. You don't see the problems. And then you kind of might have this thought, like, it's just accepting everything. Love. I just love you. Let's just fill the place with love. Let's put big hearts on the walls and fill the place with love. And then that might be love in a certain kind of sense, but it's not a love in truth. There's something where these two big words are together, love and truth. And then I'd like to just, before we get into all these verses, I'd like to just zoom out for a little bit and look at this interesting verse. Like, not only I love you in truth, but look at this. All who know the truth love her in truth. If you know the truth, you love this chosen lady in truth. And then it's not just so that she feels good and she feels accepted, but it's for the sake of the truth, which abides in us and will be with us forever. When I think about the testimony of the church, I think this is like maybe one of the best verses to talk about the testimony of the church. The church upholds the truth. But how does the church uphold the truth? It's through saints loving in truth. Because they know the truth. And it's for the sake of the truth. And I'd like to kind of paint a picture of a church life like that. And I think about how has the church made it through the whole last 2 millennia? How has it made it through the last 2 millennia? You think about so many challenges in the church and so many obstacles. And then you look at the church and you say these two things. Number one, when you touch the reality of the church, like they love each other. And then also, when you touch the reality of the church, there's like a solid truth there. And that truth is not just a teaching. It is a lived out reality. And somehow the church is still existing. When I was reading the history of the Moravian Brethren, it's a fascinating history because they were, kind of spreading all the way through the different countries in Europe. They spread to America, and they began in, what we would say is like eastern part of Germany now, and then they went to Britain, and then they wanted to start establishing like congregations in Britain. So they had to get approval from the government of Britain to start a branch of the Brethren church in Britain. And then I was just thinking, like, my goodness, what an interesting scenario. And the reason is just so that you can't have anybody just set up a preaching center. It wasn't allowed. You had to get approval from the government, and a lot of the reason was so that the teaching would be like correct, and the truth would be, approved. And a lot of the history of the church is like, let's try to like approve it. Let's try to get the truth approved, and then we are solid in the testimony of the truth. And then I think about now, compare that kind of like rigid thing, rigid system now to now. Now anybody can say anything they want. Think about the Christian situation now. Like, you don't need approval from the government. Like, are you teaching the right thing as a church? The government will never ask you that. Like, you can just set up, anybody can say anything. And that's the era we are in. And it hasn't always been that way. You have like an approved line of truth, and even with the Catholics, the Catholic age, definitely before that, with people like Augustine, they had like this is the Catholic teaching before there was the Roman Catholic Church. This is the Catholic teaching. And it's like they were attempting to say the truth in an official capacity. And then I think about like the church has been through all of that, and how is it that there's still the truth today, and the church is still the truth today? You know what it is? It's this whole picture of like we love each other, but we love each other in truth. And how is that love in truth? It's because we know the truth, and the truth abides in us, and then the end result of that, or the fruit of that, is like there's love for one another. But it's solid. It's solid. And I'd like to try to just convey that and see if we can touch it. You just touch it. Yes, like what is our doctrinal statement? What is the doctrinal statement of of the church in Cleveland? What's the doctrinal statement of the church in Cleveland? Well, it can be written down a little bit, but it's hard to define that way. But then you look at the living, because the truth abides in the brothers and sisters, and there's a love there, and there's something, a love in truth. And then you see, like, wait a minute, it's something alive. And it's something that involves loving each other in truth for the sake of the truth. And then you touch a church, you touch a testimony, and you just get a sense like, that's very real. That's very real. And then the truth is not upheld by a statement of faith, although there could be statements of faith. But the truth is not upheld by a statement of faith, but it's upheld by a living reality of all the brothers and sisters who know the truth and who have the truth abiding in them. And then it's presented in such a beautiful way. What is that way? We just love one another. We love one another in truth, whom I love in truth. And so I think this is a major way that John would consider, like, why is there still like a testimony of God's truth in the church? It's because they love in truth. Not only that's what John does. I love in truth. But not only but also all those who know the truth. And then it's for the sake of the truth. And then you just see, like, that's how the church is floating through all of the things in the world and presenting the truth in that way. And it's not in a harsh way. It's not in a harsh way like, you got to believe this. You got to, it's more like, hey, you know what? I really love Daniel, and I love him in truth. And then we all love Daniel in truth. And then people see that. It's like, wow. And then Jesus says, by this shall all men know you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. And so when you think about a love in the church, don't think about like this fluttering feeling. When you think about a love in the church, don't think about this kind of a blind acceptance of everything that person stands for, everything, whatever. But when you think about love in the church, think about this. I love in truth. Why? There's something alive in me. There's something abiding in me. There's a truth that's abiding in me. And then what does that look like? It looks like, Marianne, I just love you. I love you in truth. See? There's just something of reality, but it's expressed with the virtues of love. It's organic. Maybe you need a mission statement, or not a mission statement, a statement of faith. But that's not the base. It's like, it's alive. It's alive. It's alive in the saints. And then you have this life where you're like, I just love that brother. And then, do I love that brother because we all agree on the same exact doctrinal issues? It's like, no, it's even above that or beyond that. It's like there's something of the truth that is abiding in me, something of the truth that is working in me, and that truth working and abiding in me causes me to really love you. Why? For the sake of the truth. But I still love you. I'm not loving you for the whatever. There's like a life there. Like a life there. What could knit the churches together in the age where John was ministering to them? when there were so many different forces, so many different distractions. You know what could knit that together? I love in truth. So let's just look at love a little bit. And we'll work on we'll talk about our love. And then one of the first things that John says is, don't love the world. Don't love the world. And it's a really misplaced love for the world. It's really misplaced. I'll just read this. Do not love the world, nor the things in the world. And look at this. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. Is not in him. And so, and then he describes the world, all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the boastful pride of life is not from the Father, but is from the world. The world is passing away, and also its lust, but the one who does the will of God lives forever. So, there's like a love in us, and you could say a lot of ways, like people are drawn by what they love. People are drawn by what they love. If you love something, you will be into that. If I love coffee, I'm into coffee. I love donuts. I can tell you a lot of the donut shops in a lot of different cities, a lot of different towns. One time for my birthday, I had a donut crawl with my kids, and we rated donuts from 5 different independent donut shops in Cleveland. If you want that information, I could tell you. You know why I love donuts? And it leads you. Your love leads you. Your love leads you. And here, it's like, don't love the world. The world. And then this is kind of like, maybe it's like elementary school. First thing you have to learn, don't love the world. You know what the world is? It's the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the boastful pride of life. That's what the world is made of. It's the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the boastful pride of life. You could just think about there's something there that gives me some kind of pride, some kind of elevation. It makes me special. And then what makes me special is different for different people. And that's what's so unique about the world. You know, the Amish say, if you have rubber tires, that's worldly. But it's not that objective. You know, if you ride a horse and a buggy, then you're not worldly. But if you have rubber tires and drive cars, you're worldly. No, it's not that objective. It's something that would make you special. Like it's a boastful pride of life. That's a picture of the world. So then one person was describing the Amish people. It's like, no, they don't have rubber tires on their vehicles, but all the women, they want to be the first people to hang their wash on their line in the morning so that their neighbors get up and say, whoa, she already has that done. Oh, yeah. It's not the rubber tires. It's how early can you hang your laundry? What is that? World. And you love that. And there's something there that you just want to make it special, make you special. It's a boastful pride of life. And then the interesting thing is, if you are in that and you're wrapped up in that, it's an amazing verse. It says, if anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. It's like there's just not room. Not room. I don't want to develop this too much because I'd like to go on to other things, but I just want to tell you one prayer that I had that was it's really helpful to me at a certain time in my life. I was at a place where it was very attractive. The world was very attractive. And it was just I could touch it. could touch it. I could just touch it. And well, that's really good. I didn't realize how good it was. And then I just prayed this one prayer. Jesus, make yourself more beautiful than that. Make yourself more beautiful than that. And you know what? He did. He did. Just make yourself more beautiful. And it's like you can't be in both realms where you love the world and then you also love the Father. It's like, no, I just want to live my whole life for him. I like to be full of the love of the Father. I like to be filled with the love of the Father. And I like that ambiguity, the love of the Father. Is it the love for the Father? Is it the love that the Father has? It's the love of the Father. Just fill in the blanks. Love of the Father. And the more the more you just free your heart from those things of the world, then the more there's just a joy and a freedom to just be filled with the love of the Father, and to be in the enjoyment of the Father, and just to say, Father, I don't know what my future holds, but whatever it is, I want to love you more. And then as soon as you touch the world and touch the love of the world, that just disappears. It's just gone. It's just gone. And then, the key is to find out how to live in the world, but not be wrapped up in it in your heart. Because you still need to pay insurance, you still need tires on your car, you still need all this kind of stuff. You still need a career, whatever. You still need to do all those things, but it's like, Lord, I don't want my heart to be wrapped up in those things, but I would like my love to be just entirely wrapped up in the love of the Father. And then there's like a purity that develops. There's a purity. And you can even tell there's a purity in the church that develops when so many brothers and sisters in the church say, I do not love the things of the world, but I love the Father. And then you begin to taste this. And then the rest of the verses we'll go through is like, what do you do when you love the Father? What does that mean when your life is full of the love of the Father? And then can we grow to the point where we love in truth? It's like, but the first step is this: Lord, Father, I just love you. I just love you. It's something of God. Love is of God. Love is of God. And I'll just read these verses. By this, the love of God was manifested in us, that God has sent his only begotten Son into the world so that we might live through him. And it's that base of act, fact. You're just around God, who has sent his only begotten Son. I have children. I cannot imagine sending my children. Just like he sent his only begotten Son. I couldn't imagine. But he sent. He's like, this is my love. I gave him. I gave him. And when you're just like, you just touch that. And you touch something so pure, something so profound, something so much of the flowing out of God. He's not there to zap you. He's not there to correct you. He's not there to judge you. He's not there to condemn you. This is God's love. I just send my only begotten Son into the world. I just sent him. I sent him. And I gave my only begotten Son. And you taste that kind of flowing out, the love that is of God. And it changes you. And look at this. We have come to know and have believed the love which God has in us, for us. God is love. God is love. And the one who abides in love abides in God, and God abides in him. It's like, and then later on he says this, we love only because he first loved us. When we say love one another, that'll be the next verse. When we say love one another, it's not looking at within to find a reserve or a capacity to love. No. The first thing you have to realize is this, is that we touch love when God sent his only begotten Son. And then the second thing you have to realize, that when God abides in us, that his person, his being, his nature is just expressing in us, and that expression is love. And then the third thing you have to realize is this, like the only reason that we love is because he first loved us. We just experience that love. We just bask in the love, and we realize, like, God just did so much to love us. And it's not just like outwardly he is showing us how much he loved from us. Like sometimes a parent will say to a child, "You don't know how much I've done for you." No, that's not that good of a saying, parent to child. You don't know how much I've done for you. God does not say this. You don't know how much I've done for you. He just says this, I've done it for you. Taste the love. And more than that, I abide in you. And that experience of love that we're talking about is like a result of him abiding in us. So John would just say, just love. Let us love one another, for love is from God. Everyone who loves is born of God and knows God. The one who does not love does not know God, for God is love. If you're born of God, you just love. It's just, and if you love, you just know God. Know God. It's not really like a command that requires us to summon up our own strength. It's more like this, like you're born of God. You have God. And there's an innate capacity, like an automatic response. Like I just want to love. Because why? God is. I'm born. I'm born of him, and I know him, and it just happens. So I have a couple quotes. We Christians, children of God, has a life that it aspires to live rightly with everyone and everything. It aspires to love others. We have such an aspiration because of the divine nature within us. As we have pointed out, if someone does not live in a way that is right with everyone, everything, and every matter, and does not live a life of loving others, it's like there's a serious question whether this one has received the divine life. It's like like if you've received the divine life, you're born of God, you'll love. If you really have that divine life, it's like there's just something there that's like, I just want to love. I want to love. There was a sister that went to China. This is like many years ago, a few years ago, like maybe 15 years ago. And then she's like, yeah, this is the teaching of Confucius. Don't do this, don't do this, don't do that. And then it's like, and then her impression was that, oh, these people, they don't really care about each other. But then the Christian teaching is this: love. Love. And then this is very outward. It's not that spiritual, but love is like it's beyond. It's like you just want to do right. You just want to care. You just want to care for your fellow human being, whether they're believer or not. You just want to love. You just want to give something sacrificially. And where does that come from? It comes from not your trying, but it comes from you're born of God. And that life just wants to do that. One time I was even, this is a silly illustration, but I was listening to NPR, and then they were trying to raise money for like a Buddhist thing. And then they were saying like, and then it was really funny. It's like, they ended up raising money in America for this Buddhist cause because of the Judeo-Christian ethic that was in the culture of America to give. And I was like, that's so wrong. You know why people want to give? Because there's something like God, when you touch God's life and you just want to give. You're like, you just want to give. And then that can be like, in a lot of different scenarios. But, when you're a believer, you have God's life, you just want to give to people. You just want to love people. You want to do that. Why? Because you're born of God. You know God. And then God is in you, and you just say that God is love. You taste it. It's a taste. God is love. God is love. And let me tell you, when we're talking about love, it's like this. It's like this. Why do I love you? I just have a life. This is a life. And then I have a life inside. And then that life is God's life. And the nature of his essence is love. And then when I'm filled with that God who is love, love is from God. Everyone who loves is born of God and knows God. And it's an automatic kind of thing. You see how this where we're going to, love in truth, it's like an organic. The whole thing is organic. You have to have people that are filled with the life of God and know God. And it is true. Then if you're like, I don't love anybody, then you could question, do you have the life of God? Do you have the life of God? I like this. This is kind of advice. Like how can you see this love grow, and because it's like let us love one another, and then this is constable. First, we must yield to there's two responsibilities in this love growing, and I think this is true. We can destroy our capacity to love by not expressing love when God moves us to do so. We can lose our passion for the lost by resisting the Holy Spirit's promptings to reach out in love. We need to be ready to sacrifice rather than put ourselves first. However, if we yield to the impulse of love to serve others, our love will deepen and intensify. We must not quench the Spirit if he is prompting us to reach out to someone with love. It's just like you just live a life. Like I'm just I have an impulse, and I just go with it. And then you know what? It'll just grow. There's a growth. There's a growth in your taste and your experience of that love. And then second of all, and we'll get to this, we must guard love's purity. We need to watch for false charity. True love never sacrifices principle. God never loved at the expense of life. Love never justifies sin. The constable would say, like, how do you grow in that love? Well, number one, inwardly. There's an impulse. You just love. I just love. Just love. And then you grow in that. You follow that. And you know what happens? Then more flows. More flows. More love. More love. And then the second of all, it's like, for some reason, if there's an impurity there, it doesn't work. And I would say, oh, you know what Constable's second guard is for? It's for this. It's from this. Love in truth. Love in truth. There's something that goes together. And so then someone can say, I love God. And if he hates his brother, he's just a liar. It's like there's something that's just very practical. I love God. I hate my brother. You're a liar. For the one who does not love his brother whom he has seen cannot love God whom he has not seen. This is a commandment we have from him, that the one who loves God should love his brother also. And so, there's this these things go together. I love God. I love my brothers. And it's interesting if you look at how God's love is perfected. There's two ways that love is perfected. Whoever keeps his word, in him the love of God has truly been perfected. By this we know that we are in him. The one who says he abides in him ought himself to walk in the same manner as he walked. Second way that the love is perfected. No one has seen God at any time. If we love one another, God abides in us, and his love is perfected in us. And you see from these verses, it's like, this is the experience of God's love. God is in us. He is love. He's abiding in us. He who loves abides in God. But then at the same time, that love has to grow. And that love has to be perfected. And when that love is perfected, it's like, wow, I am growing in the expression of that love. I'm growing in the manifestation of that love. And I am growing to know more and more about what that love is, what that love looks like. And with these two verses together, what happened here? These two verses together, you just realize it goes along two tracks. One is this. I'll do the lower one first. If we love one another, God abides in us, and his love is perfected in us. One of the track is this. I just want to try to love you. I just want to try to love you. And let me tell you, in the church life, this is so challenging. This is so challenging. Because we're so different. At a certain point, you might say, like, there's no one in the church that's like me. I don't know how to love. I don't know how to, this is just very, very different. This person is very different. And, how is that love to be perfected? The love is perfected if we love one another. It's very easy to say this. I love God. But it's very hard to say this. I love the sister or brother that's right next to me. You start realizing your your rough edges. You start realizing their rough edges. You start realizing all of the idiosyncrasies. You start realizing all of the weirdness. You just pray that the Lord would change that person, and he doesn't. You're like, Lord, please change that brother. Make him different. Make him better. Make him lovely. And then the Lord's like, my love is powerful. And then that person who is not so lovely, eventually you're able to say, I love him. And then God would say, you know what? My love is perfected. My love is perfected. Why? Because it's shown in the most challenging of circumstances. You can really tell the difference when the saints love one another. And I can tell, like, throughout my life, I've been put with brothers who are so different than me. I wish I had another physicist. We could talk about physics, whatever. No, instead there's like artists, musicians, there's architects, there's a lot of computer people. But through all of that, it's like I can experience loving. And then they also can experience loving through me. And whatever rough edges, whatever. And then you look at all of that and say, you know what? If I were a Christian and I were just totally alone, I would really love God. You would really love God. If you're a Christian, you're totally alone, you would really love God. But you would never be tested of how much you love others. You'd never be tested how much you love others. You would never be challenged with that brother who has squeaky shoes, with that brother who, whatever. And then God in his wisdom just says, you know how my love is perfected? You love one another. And one time, I was like, oh, I just really have trouble with this brother. And then this older brother was there. And then he didn't know I had trouble with that brother. And then he was just like, you know, we should really try to help that brother that I was like just thinking about. And then I could tell in my heart, it's like, oh, I don't know. I don't want to. And then I could tell from that, I could tell why he's an older brother and I'm not. Why? It's just like you just get a sense of just love. And that love is perfected. Why? Because we love one another. We love one another. It's grown. And then the second way, it's a second track, is whoever keeps his word in him, the love of God, has truly been perfected. And this is a more surprising verse. Like, if you keep his word, then the love of God is truly perfected in you. And then it's like you can't love God without knowledge. You can't love God without knowing the word. You can't love God without growing in the word. And you especially can't love, have a love perfected without like a continual increase in your relationship and your apprehension and your keeping of the word. There's one time a brother, I asked him, can you read the book of Luke? And then he'd never read the book of Luke before, so he read the book of Luke. And I said, what'd you get out of it? And he said this, most interesting comment. He said, you know what? From that reading of the book of Luke, he said, I kind of know what it means to say, I love Jesus. Like, whoa. You're just exposed to the word. And then you're like, I think I can love. I can love. I can love. And it just works that way. And then the more you're in the word, it's like the more the knowledge is there, and you just realize, like, wow, I never realized God was like that. How did I know that? Because of the word. And I am living my life keeping his word. And your knowledge of him goes deeper. Your love of him gets broader. Your knowledge of him is higher. Your love of him becomes more transcendent. The more you look at him, the more you know him in the word, the more you explore him in the word, and the more you live out that word, the more you are able to love him in such a profound way. Your love is perfected as you keep his word. It's a growth. It's a growth. Maybe it's like husbands and wives, they just know each other more. And the more they know each other, in the best kind of scenario, the more they know each other, the deeper their love becomes for one another, and the more profound their relationship is. And it's no longer like a fluttering heart when they see one another, but there's something really deep because they really know the other person, and they're learning about that other person more. And that's just totally in the physical realm. But in the realm of the Lord, the more you know his word, then the more you're like, oh, I love him. I love him. You know, with God, the more you look at him, the more perfect he is. Like he's just more perfect. He's more wonderful. With a person or with the things of man, the more you look at it, the more flaws you see sometimes. You're like, whoa, okay, I still love you. I still love you. I see the flaws. But the more you look at the word, the Lord, and the more you keep the word in that way, you're just like, this is too wonderful. Your wisdom is unscrutable. Your wisdom is so profound and so beyond. Like, who can search out all of these things? And you're just like, I love you so much more. Your love is perfected in that way. And then your love is also perfected by just loving one another. And then that love grows. And then you begin to touch what this is, to love in truth. Why? Because my love has been perfected along those two lines. So, John says, little children, let us not love with word or tongue, but in deed and truth. Like, let's love in truth. Why? Because my love has been perfected by keeping his word. Why? Because my love has been perfected through loving the brothers. And then there's a way. I don't just love you in deed and with word and tongue, but I love you in deed and I love you in the truth. I'll just end with this. So, John kind of like caps this off. You see how mature of a statement this is. Chosen lady, her children. You can imagine the old-aged John, the elder, writing very slowly, whom I love in truth. And what does that mean? It means God himself touched me by his love. God is abiding in me, and I am free from the world to be full of the love of the Father. And that love has been perfected in me through loving many different brothers. And that love has been enriched in me by my deep knowledge of his word and my growth in the word. And now that love, that love is growing out of me because I have the experience of the truth, and I have the experience and the knowledge and the reality of the truth that's living in me. And then that becomes the virtues in my life. And you know what? I love you in truth. It's not a fluttering feeling. It's not a blind feeling. It's not a blind love, but it's a substantial love. It's a real love. And then why? And I do this with all of those people who know the truth, and we do that all together for the sake of the truth. And so we are the testimony of the Lord's truth on the earth. And how does that testimony come through? Because we love one another. And that love is in truth. Jesus says this, by this, all men will know that you are my disciples if you have love for one another. But what is that love? That love is such an experience of God. And it's like all the saints are brought into such a profound experience of God abiding and living in them, living out of them. They've all been brought through a process of that love being perfected through loving one another, through keeping his word. And then the capstone is this. What do those saints do? They all love you in truth for the sake of the truth. And then people see that and they say, that's the church. That's the truth. That's God's love. That's his message to the world. And we see that and say, this is the worth living my whole life. It's worth everything to be part of this kind of testimony. Praise the Lord. Let's love in truth. You can even tell the sister next to you, I love you in truth. And or the brother next to you, I love you in truth. And we realize, like, what a profound life that is. So I'll stop there. People on Zoom, you can have some sharing time. And for us here, we can just have some prayer.